So let me now invite Bhante Pemaratana to start this evening's Dhamma sharing. This is also in conjunction with Vesak. And Bhante, would you like to start this evening sharing?
Yes. Okay. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Dear friends in the Dhamma, I'm very glad again to be part of this program, for this Vesak program, and especially on Friday, because Friday talk has been a tradition in Malaysia. So I'm so glad that I am able to be a part of the Friday talk, also in conjunction of Vesak program from Pittsburgh, USA. And I'm so glad that you all somehow found a way to celebrate and then commemorate the Buddha, the Vesak themes, the birth, the enlightenment, and passing away of the Buddha. So today I would like to share with you the Buddha's teachings on mindfulness. Of course, this has been a very important topic throughout the Buddhist history, but particularly during this period and in many all around the world, people are talking about mindfulness. It has become such a what you call a hot topic. So today I would like to spend a little more time on understanding the real, original teachings of the Buddha on mindfulness. So I titled this topic, this talk as mindfulness and right mindfulness. What I mean by right mindfulness is not implying that other forms of mindfulness are wrong. What I mean by right mindfulness is what you call samma sati, which is the in the Noble Eightfold Path. We have mindfulness, or let's say right mindfulness, or maybe appropriate mindfulness as a part of our practice. So let me start with the simile given by the Buddha. When Buddha uh, talked about mindfulness, he has used number of similes. So I think Buddha, as a great teacher, Buddha has used similes most of the time to help us to understand some difficult concepts. So let me start with the simile given by the Buddha. This is called simile of the gatekeeper. So Buddha was describing how we can use mindfulness. What is the function of mindfulness? So when he described that, he was talking about a fortress. A fortress. A fortress. We need to understand fortress is what in ancient what ancient rulers used when they built a kingdom, and then they will build a fortress within that kingdom. That fortress can be almost like a city inside, but it is well protected. So this particular sutta is also called Nagara Sutta, the sutta on the city, the city within a fortress. So according to this simile, so imagine a big fortress, the whole city, not a city, and then there are so many things happening inside. The king is inside, the other ministers are inside, and the army is inside, and then we have big, strong walls on the four sides of the city. So that is the fortress, and this is well protected, and all the important treasures are inside, and the weapons are inside, and for the protection of the fortress, protection of the country, and this is the most important place in the country, this fortress, and someone has to protect this. Of course, there are four walls to protect the city. The very fortress is to protect it, but then people have to move in and out. Therefore, there are four gates to this fortress. So people who are inhabitants of this city, people who serve in the king's court, should be able to come in and out. And sometimes people need to deliver things, but you need to protect this fortress from invaders. Maybe people who are coming from outside, and people who are not allowed to come in. And sometime those days, during ancient period, kings were fighting with each other. Sometime some other ruler can send you a spy. So if that spy, as a normal person, came into this city, came into this fortress, he'll be able to collect all the important information. Where is the storage, where is the weaponry, and all these things. So that can be very harmful for the protection of this fortress. Therefore, during those days, there were gatekeepers. On all these four gates, there were gatekeepers, and these gatekeepers has to be very skillful and very intelligent, very wise. And they should, they are in the gates, and they will watch everyone coming in to this city, to this fortress, and they should be able to identify and then distinguish who are the people who are allowed to come in, and who are the people who do not have a permission to come in, or is not appropriate people to come in. So this is the function of the gatekeeper. So with quite intelligent, you have to be very alert, but at the same time have to be wise, and then should be able to distinguish to whom he should allow to come in. So I mean, I'm thinking about these days we have like our buildings. Sometimes those buildings are not anybody can go into these buildings. There are only allowed people who can go into these buildings. So we have like cards, identity cards. So we will swipe the identity card, and then they will recognize, okay, this person is a worker inside, so he can go in. So outside people who are not working inside the building cannot come in. So right now, these days, also we have those systems in our institutions. So right now that machine function as a gatekeeper. Even in a gated community, if you are living in a gated community, there is an entrance. There are people who will protect that community, and so they will decide who can go in and who cannot go in. So that's the same function, so in the gated community. So Buddha's giving this example of the gatekeeper and saying that the function of mindfulness is exactly like this gatekeeper. The function of mindfulness is to be able to watch, observe whatever arising in our body and mind, and then distinguish what are the beneficial mental states, what are the beneficial experiences, what are the experiences that are not beneficial, and distinguish, and then decide to promote or weaken those mental states. So I want you to remember this simile. Now, I will come back to that later. But having that simile of the gatekeeper is very important for us to understand the concept of Buddhist mindfulness, what we call samma sati, the right mindfulness or appropriate mindfulness. So keep that image in your mind, keep that simile in your mind. Now let us move to talk about how mindfulness has been understood in our modern usage, the modern concept of mindfulness. When you read any book on mindfulness, or and you hear any lecture on mindfulness, usually the general way that mindfulness is understood in the contemporary time is something similar to like paying attention to the present moment. Paying attention to the present moment. Mainly non-judgmental awareness of this, whatever going on in us and around us. and this the observation of the present moment. So there's whole emphasis on the present moment, and there's some emphasis on observation, and there's emphasis on non-judgmental nature. So this is how normally mindfulness has been understood. From the Buddhist perspective, this understanding of mindfulness is not bad, not bad. But from the Buddhist perspective, understanding mindfulness as something that focusing only on the present moment, um, and always non-judgmental, uh, is uh, is something limited. From the Buddhist perspective, this the modern definition of mindfulness has captured one aspect or one dimension of the mindfulness that Buddha talked about. So we cannot, so we cannot blame, how people use the concept of mindfulness, because this mindfulness is an ability of human mind. So we cannot really say, it belongs to certain tradition or certain philosophy. But I just want to explain to you this difference between the Buddhist teachings of mindfulness and the modern day concept of mindfulness. They are related, they are connected, but from the Buddhist perspective, the modern concept is quite limited, and the Buddhist idea of mindfulness is a little bit broader than it has been understood and used in the modern day. But even the modern concept has captured one important aspect of the Buddhist idea of mindfulness. As you know, actually, the modern concept of mindfulness is derived from the Buddhist context. Although, the mindfulness is something that we all share, the skill that all human beings have, but the modern idea of mindfulness came from the Buddhist context. The people who introduced this mindfulness into secular context, secular usages, took that concept from the Buddhist context. So, I mean, people like the key person who introduced the modern concept of mindfulness is the John Kabat-Zinn, the the person from the Massachusetts School of Medicine, and of course he was exposed to Buddhist ideas, and he's clearly admitted that he took it from the Buddhist context and he appropriated into medical context. And there are many other people who brought this concept to the modern usage. They all came from the Buddhist context. So they have captured a very important aspect of it. But even with that one aspect, this mindfulness has been so useful to so many people. This has been used in healthcare as a method of pain management, and also as a method of reducing anxiety, as a method of reducing stress. And even this mindfulness has been also used to treat psychological disorders like depression. Mindfulness-based treatments have been proven effective, very effective to treat the disorders like depression. So it has been so useful, and even this has been now used in the field of business. So many companies have introduced training program for the employees to train mindfulness, the ability to pay attention to the present moment. So that like their purpose is to teach these skills to their employees and then make them more productive than they usually are. So many businesses are also using this concept. And of course, we also find that mindfulness has also been used in militaries, like in training of soldiers and training of their focus, and also even to treat the soldiers with post-traumatic disorders, stress disorders, PTSD. So it has been used in many fields. It has been proven so useful, so beneficial. That is no argument about it. But let's come back to the Buddhist idea of mindfulness. So the Buddhist, the Pali term for mindfulness is sati. We need to understand this sati has an element of memory also. Of course, it is an action of paying attention to the present moment. But the term sati, the original meant memory. So remembering. So there's this element of remembering too. Okay, let's go back to the simile Buddha has used. I think you remember the simile of the gatekeeper, right? So if you remember that gatekeeper, so what that gatekeeper is doing, he's paying attention to every person who is coming to this fortress. So if you only pay attention to the everyone who's coming in, and just simply observing all the people who are coming and do nothing, or simply observing all the people who are coming in without using any of his memory, any of his understanding, there's no use of having a gatekeeper, right? I think there's a famous story told by Achan Brahm, that one person was asked to watch a house when the residents were going for a vacation. So that person kept watching the house, and one day a set of robbers came in, and he saw the robbers are coming in, and then they took all the valuable things and went away. When the house owners came in and asked from the watcher, didn't you look after our house? Say, yes, I watched. So didn't you see robbers came in? He said, yeah, I saw robbers came in, and I saw, they broke in the windows. I saw they were taking all the things, and I saw how they ran away. I was watching everything. So he was a good watcher, but that's not the purpose of having a watcher, right? So in the same way, so if the gatekeeper is only observing who are coming in, and that is not helpful that much. So what gatekeeper was doing? First, of course, he was keenly observing who is coming in. But then he has to have a prior knowledge. This gatekeeper has to have prior knowledge. Who are the residents in this city, in this fortress? Or who has the permission to come in? Once he see the face, he should be able to recognize this person is a resident inside, or this person has a permission to come in. And he should be able to see this person is a strange person. He is not allowed to come in. So he has to have prior knowledge in order to fulfill his function as a gatekeeper. Not only is observing what is happening right there, he's not simply observing the present moment, but he's also using his prior knowledge, prior memories to distinguish, who is allowed to come in, who is not allowed to come in. And then he's not simply observing and distinguishing, then he has to make a choice. He will choose, and he will act appropriately. He will allow the residents to go in, and he will stop the strangers from entering. So understand the breadth of the functions that this gatekeeper has to do. It's not only simply observing the present moment. So you need to use the prior knowledge that you had, the prior memories. So you are also using the past memories and past knowledge, and then you have to act appropriately for future benefits. So the Buddhist concept of mindfulness has this this element of both past, present, and future. That means that so the very definition of sati has this element of memory. Let me read the exact quote from the Buddha. And in this sutta, which is found in Samyutta Nikaya, the connected discourses, where the Buddha defined mindfulness, sati. And Buddha says that, what is the faculty of sati, monks? When a disciple of the noble ones has sati, he is endowed with excellent proficiency in memory. He's remembering, recollecting what has done and what is said long time ago. And then he remains focused in the body, in and of itself, ardent, alert, and subduing greed and distress with reference to the world. And so and so forth. I will come back to this definition again. But this idea that the Buddhist concept of mindfulness is actually applying the memory of the past and learning of the past to the present moment for the sake of present and future benefits. So you can understand the broad understanding of mindfulness is, of course, paying attention to the present moment is important, very important dimension of it. But it is not completely, devoid of the past and the future. Definitely, of course, past and the future do not exist in real sense. The present is what really exists. But the very function of mindfulness needs some kind of prior knowledge and memory, and then of course appropriate action to benefit of the present moment. So that's something. So that's the breadth. Okay, so there's more breadth to Buddhist understanding. But then let me go into the more of the depth of Buddhist understanding. So the Buddhist idea of mindfulness is it has a particular range. So we are not simply paying attention to whatever going on around us. And mainly Buddhist definition of mindfulness is actually paying attention inward, paying attention to the body, paying attention to the sensations, what you call feelings, most translations, and then paying attention to the states of mind, and then paying attention to the thoughts and emotions or mental qualities, what you call dhammas, wholesome and unwholesome qualities. So Buddhist mindfulness has particular range, paying attention to the body, paying attention to the sensations, like when we get the sensory stimulus, and paying attention to what is happening inside, not necessarily what is happening outside, and paying attention to different states of the mind, and then of course different particular, paying attention to specific emotions and specific wholesome qualities arising in the mind. So there's a particular range. So Buddhist idea of mindfulness is paying attention inward. It's like paying close attention to a flower, paying close attention to some process can be a practice of mindfulness, but not the right mindfulness, not the proper mindfulness, not the Buddhist idea of mindfulness. Because Buddhist ideas of mindfulness always have this inward turn. I remember, Bhante Punnaji used to translate sati as introspection. So I think in his translation he has this element of turning inward, because in all the places where Buddha describes mindfulness, and he always describes mindfulness in terms of paying attention, like remembering to pay attention, remains paying attention to the body, sensations, the mental states of the mind, and then emotions and the other wholesome qualities of the mind. So it has that element. Then, and also Buddha said that as long as you stay in this range, and Buddha call it proper range, as long as our attention is somehow established within our body, and our attention is established in our feelings, our states of the mind and mental qualities, as long as our attention is within that framework, Buddha said that we are in the proper range or safe range, because as long as we are there, defilements cannot arise. And Buddha said that Mara does not find an entry into our mind as long as we have this proper range. Because the moment we are being fooled by the external objects, and no matter how strong your attention to that object is still we somehow taken that object for granted, and then we will definitely either create attachment or resentment towards that. So then defilements can arise. But as long as we keep attention inward, and we are safe. On the other hand, I mean, of course, but general mindfulness would be like paying attention to anything. And so in that case, we can think about a cat. When the cat wants to hunt a mouse, when cat want to hunt a mouse, for example, and he will have a strong a mindfulness, very strong focus. He will pay attention, very close attention to that mouse. So he's practicing mindfulness definitely when he catch a mouse and any other animal when they hunt. but that is not right mindfulness. That is not the Buddhist idea of mindfulness. So maybe at least not right use of mindfulness. Um, so the second element of the Buddhist idea of mindfulness is actually the whole purpose of paying attention is not simply observing whatever happening. The Buddhist mindfulness has a specific purpose, that is to to remove our defilements. In order to remove our defilements, we need to have a better, clear understanding of the reality. So the purpose of Buddhist mindfulness is to directly witness and see the true nature of whatever we are experiencing, which means the impermanence of any phenomena and arising and passing away of any phenomena. So it's not so we are paying attention to the present experiences, not simply to be there. We are paying attention to present experience in order to see the changing nature of any phenomena, a constant changing nature of any phenomena. So Buddhist mindfulness has a purpose. Purpose is to directly experience the change, directly experience the impermanent, directly experience the arising and passing away of any phenomena, directly seeing that. And once you directly saw it, and then we can and that is what is really happening. And particularly we observe the inner part of the experience. We observe the inner experience that we are going through has this nature of constant change. So it's not simply observing and being okay with that, but actually there's an element of discernment of change, impermanence, and arising and passing away. That means to truly realize what is happening inside us. So the consequence would be the developing an equanimous mind, the mind that free from defilements, and the equanimous mind with the deep understanding of the reality. So what I need to emphasize is that in general way today mindfulness is usually used as a let's say as a technique of relaxation. Of course, mindfulness brings us relaxation, but the Buddhist concept of mindfulness is not simply a technique of relaxation. It's a technique of wisdom. It's a technique of deeply realizing the important truths of our lives, and then developing a equanimous and compassionate mind. So it's not simply a tool to chill out, but it's a tool that help us our life in the long term. So that's the important difference we need to understand. And and then we need to understand thirdly that Buddhist mindfulness is not an isolated practice. We all know the Buddhist idea of mindfulness, or let's say right mindfulness, is found as a part of the Noble Eightfold Path. So the mindfulness is a part of a larger system of training. So the Noble Eightfold Path is the technique of training. It's a training program for us, for Buddhists, to understand the origin of suffering and then gradually liberate oneself from all forms of suffering, all forms of bondages, and then experience the in freedom and enlightenment. So that the whole training program is the Noble Eightfold Path. So right mindfulness is a part of that whole training program. So the mindfulness function within a larger training program. And what is really important is that in order for a mindfulness to become a right mindfulness, let's say a proper mindfulness, the mindfulness that can help us to reduce our suffering, and then can help us to really see the deep reality of the life. In order to make mindfulness such a beneficial mindfulness, the right view plays an important role here. Right view. Of course, the whole Noble Eightfold Path is started with right view. Right view is something that we develop by understanding or reading and listening to the teachings of the Buddha. And right view kind of shapes our right mindfulness. Means that, as I mentioned earlier, for the gatekeeper to observe and recognize, who is allowed to come in, he has to have a prior knowledge. He has to have some kind of memory and prior knowledge. What the right view is doing is that giving that ability for us. Our whole purpose of observing our mental states, our body, our sensation, is not simply to like observe and be okay with it. We do it in order to like help ourselves to remove our mind from defilements. So in order to do that, we need some prior knowledge to understand, what are the defilements, and what kind of mental states can harm us, what kind of mental states can produce suffering in us. Of course, we can use our own experiences. If we make an honest observation of your previous experiences, we can have a better idea, what kind of actions, what kind of thoughts, what kind of patterns of speech can generate so much troubles to us. So we can use our own memory also if you do a genuine, honest observation. Sometimes we try to justify all of actions, all our speeches. Sometimes it's hard, but we can, if you do an honest observation, honest reevaluation of our own past actions, and we can use that as a memory also. But at the same time, we can also use the teachings of the Buddha, and then have a right view, the understanding how suffering arises in human mind, at least theoretically understanding that suffering is not caused by external factors, external people, external situation. Definitely external situation, difficult, difficult people to be with, and challenging situations provide a condition for our suffering to arise. But there are so much that that happening inside of us in terms of interpretation, in terms of going back to our old patterns of reactions. There are so many things happening inside us that at the end produce suffering. So having that understanding that how suffering arises in our human mind, and what are the main causes and conditions, and then there's also a way that we can be away from these causes and conditions, and there's a way to the techniques to overcome them. Having that theoretical understanding is very important in order to practice right mindfulness. And in fact, there's an important sutta called Mahachattarisika Sutta in the Middle Lane discourses, the discourse on the 40. And in this discourse, the right view, right mindfulness, and right effort are being described as the main three items of the whole Noble Eightfold Path. Because when it is the right view and right mindfulness and right effort that help us to make our speech right or proper, that make our speech that is not producing suffering, and makes us action proper or right or not producing suffering. So we need these three functions together: right view, right mindfulness, and right effort function together to make this whole Eightfold Path moving forward and helping us to spiritually evolve. And how this explained? Because you apply your mindfulness to whatever experience that we are going through, but then you apply your knowledge, a prior understanding, right view. And with the right view, you can understand, okay, whatever going on right now in my mind, is it beneficial or is it not beneficial? I'm having this I'm having this anger, I'm having this state of jealousy, I have this, whatever is happening. So with the prior understanding, you can distinguish whether it is helpful or not. And then, so we observe with our mindfulness, but we use our knowledge from the right view to distinguish whether it's helpful or not. Then right effort is a very important part of this. Right effort is to put forth like making an effort really to if it is not helpful, to distinguish it, and if it's not helpful, to like abandon it. If it is helpful, to grow it. So in the right effort, let me read how the Buddha described right effort. What is right effort, monks? That's the case a monk generates desire, endeavors, activates persistence, uphold, exerts his intent for the sake of non-arising of unskillful qualities and abandoning of unskillful qualities, and also for the sake of arousing skillful qualities, and also for the sake of maintaining wholesome qualities. So without right effort, right mindfulness is not beneficial. So we need to have this, like all this right view to inform us what is proper and what is helpful, what is beneficial and what is not beneficial, what is skillful, what is not skillful, what is wholesome, what is not wholesome. We need to have a right view or our genuine evaluation of our own past actions, and then we can distinguish. And then what right mindfulness is helping us to make a right effort, to whether to maintain that mental states or to drop it or abandon it. So this functioning of these three together is very important. And then we can think about, like we can apply. So the right mindfulness is not simply observing our mind, but there's also element of doing some proper action right there. Let's imagine that you are in a conversation with someone, in your family, maybe with your, colleagues, or whoever, and you are having in a conversation with someone, and there are, so many things are being discussed. People are, giving their own opinions, and you try to give your own opinions, and sometimes we can be emotionally agitated in the middle of the conversation. Okay, now, so when the conversation got heated, and now it's time for you to practice your mindfulness. You first become aware what is happening in your body. You establish your awareness in the body, not focusing too much on what is coming out from the other people's mouth. Okay, your attention is now within this body. So establish your mindfulness right here. As long as you are here, you are safe. That's a proper range, according to the Buddha. So you pay attention to what is happening in our body, our agitated, state of the body. And then we can also observe our urge to say certain things, our tendency to use certain words. You can observe that, what is coming, arising in our mind. And then, so we can simply observe that, observe whatever happening. But if we stop there, if you simply observe what is happening in the body and mind and simply did only that, that's helpful, because that will preserve your peace, definitely. But it will not like train you. So if we stop there, but then what we had to do, okay, then we had to use our right view that we that we develop through learning the teachings of the Buddha, or maybe that we develop through our own previous experiences. Maybe you had a similar conversation weeks ago, and you said certain things, and it created a real bad situation, and people got really angry, and then you started a quarrel, or maybe you stopped talking to each other, and you hurt so many people because you said that thing. You can use that your previous experiences, and you know that if I use the same words, same way of reacting, I'm going to produce the same result. So you can use that prior memory of your own bad, your own mistakes, or you can use the knowledge you get from the Buddha. And then what we can do, make an effort to abandon that urge, abandon the tendency to speak in a certain way. So instead of like justifying our thoughts, we can contemplate the consequences we are going to have. This tendency is not going to help me. This tendency is not going to bring what I want, because people get upset, and your purpose is not fulfilled. We will not be able to get what we want, even though you express it in a very forceful way sometimes. So based on your previous experiences, based on the teachings of the Buddha, you can make a decision, and instead of like simply observing, first you observe. That is where you start. If you objectively observe it, whatever urges, whatever tendencies arising. But then instead of simply stopping there, like instead on not only observing it, but then if it's not helpful, you try to abandon it, you try to weaken it by contemplating the consequences, contemplating the danger of those tendencies, the unbeneficial, unhealthy nature of those tendencies very quickly in the mind, and drop it. And then you make a counterpart effort. You purposely try to say something else, maybe very mindful uh, way of speaking. You try to like say purposely, you say something. You're not simply observing and watching and be like silent and be like a zombie, but you observe it, you distinguish the whole beneficial or not beneficial. And if it's not beneficial, you try to contemplate the consequences and try to abandon it. And instead you try to put effort. It may be difficult, sometimes it may be like faking, but make some effort, like say something different in that conversation. What's going to happen in this case? You have used right view, right mindfulness, and right effort. And when you do that, it's kind of giving you a training. It train your personality. So when you do that, next time when you're in a conversation, that effort you made, that observation you made, that discernment you did is already part of your personality, and it will help you automatically say the better things. And the next time the urge is coming to your mind, and the patterns of your speech will be beneficial one, wholesome one. So then also you notice that pattern also. When you observe it is a wholesome one, it has given you benefits in previously, and then you can maintain that tendency. You can maintain that wholesome state. So that's element of it. And also think about the other example, like let's say you feel like eating some junk food. Of course, there are so many advertisements coming in our screen, in our billboards, whatever. So those things can create an urge. Sometimes we have been conditioned to eat those unhealthy food. They are very delicious, but they're unhealthy. So imagine a situation that you feel like eating an unhealthy food. Okay, so let's say, so whenever we have that kind of urge, so what we can do, like turning attention inward and then pay attention to that state of urging. I want to eat, really feel like eating it, badly need it. Our body's like asking for that. It's not really body, actually it's the mind. The body will never ask junk food. It's only the mind that will ask the junk food. So you observe that very strong urge coming in. Observe it. Of course, the very observation can help you to reduce the force of the urge. That very observation is helpful, definitely. It really can help you. But then we should not stop there. We observe that urge. Okay, this is coming in. This is so strong. And I really feel like going out and buy. I feel like going to computer and order this. And you observe that whole urge. And then instead of stopping there, you can use your prior knowledge, your prior memory. Maybe you have eaten the same kind of food earlier. It was delicious, but then later you got into troubles. You didn't feel good afterwards. It was pleasurable when you ate it. But it didn't make you feel good after you eat it. Maybe it gave you some other health problems. You can think about those previous experiences, and then and then analyze this, and then understand the consequences and the result that we are going to experience because of that. Once you contemplate this unbeneficial consequences, then we can reduce that urge, and then we can purposely think about something else, like maybe having a more healthy food, or maybe doing something else, maybe making a donation to someone instead of paying so much money to buy this junk food. Why not I help someone to eat a basic food, someone who cannot afford it. And so you, instead of being there, you do something, you make a good effort. So this is how the right mindfulness functions in the Buddhist context. So what I want you to pay attention is that actually there are two different ways that we will attend to our mental states. If it is wholesome, we will let it grow, we will maintain it. And if it is not wholesome, we will make really effort to abandon it, effort to drop it, and effort to weaken it, because our whole purpose of mindfulness is not simply to be aware of whatever happening and just be okay, but our whole purpose of mindfulness is to liberate ourselves from the defilements in our mind, and consequently liberate ourselves from the dukkha, from the dukkha, from the suffering. That's the whole goal. So mindfulness is not simply a temporary technique to like be away from whatever situation we are in temporarily. It's not simply like chilling out. It's not simply zoning out, like observe and just be away with that, and then somehow manage that situation temporarily. That is not the purpose of Buddhist mindfulness. Of course, the very observation can help us to create some peace in us, but that is temporary. The larger goal is to like train our mind, having a training our mind to eradicate our defilements and ultimately liberate from all forms of dukkha, all forms of suffering. In order to use our mindfulness in that way is not only observing the present moment, it's actually observing the present moment within the framework of our past experiences and our prior knowledge that we gain from the teaching of the Buddha, and then make an appropriate action. Then it can function within the context of Noble Eightfold Path as a training to to remove our defilements and to eradicate all forms of suffering in our life. So the modern concept of mindfulness has captured that important aspect of the Buddhist concept, but we need to understand, we need to like broaden it. And right now, while the mindfulness is very popular in many of the Western countries, but remember, there are also many critics on mindfulness now because of this narrow focus. I mean, of course, now the people are talking about Mac mindfulness, like McDonald, Mac mindfulness, because mindfulness has been used as a profit making business now. And also, there are also critics of mindfulness. People are criticizing mindfulness as a way of simply, paying attention to the present experience, not taking into account the political and economic conditions that people are in. So only you simply observe your mind and do not really pay attention to the maybe injustice and injustice in the society. There are so many critics now, just like this popularity, there are also so many critics of mindfulness coming out. Is some people are saying that this is like mindfulness is blinding people from the actual context. You simply pay attention to whatever going on in the mind. So I think if we really apply the Buddhist concept, maybe we will be able to get rid of those critics. So now I would like to summarize what I wanted to emphasize today. Like the Buddhist concept of mindfulness is not simply paying attention to the present moment. It's, of course, that is an important part of it, but it's not only paying attention to the present moment. It is more like incorporating our past learning and memories to deal with present moments, and then make appropriate effort for future benefits. So you see this. You see these elements of past and future also, but it's not really. This is not really like worrying about things happen in the past actually, but simply using the learnings, using the memories from the past. And we are not really imagining the future and be anxious about possible future events. Actually, we are making future purposely. Instead of simply ruminating and worrying or being anxious, we are creating the future by making appropriate action right now. So that is Buddhist idea of mindfulness. So it has this element of observation, and it has this element of discernment. Of course, in modern concept we have this idea of non-judgmental. Of course, we start with non-judgmental observation of the mind. We don't want to judge. We don't want to criticize ourselves for having any experience. We start with the objective observation. That is where we start. We start with objective, non-judgmental observation. But we don't remain non-judgmental. I mean, of course, I'm not saying using the word judgment in the wrong sense, but we have to distinguish. We have to distinguish what are beneficial and what are not beneficial. We have to distinguish what are wholesome and not wholesome, what is kusala and what is akusala, what is skillful and what is unskillful. So so we need to first start with objective observation without judgments, and then we need to move into some kind of discernment. You can call it judgment, some kind of discernment to distinguish what is healthy, what is not healthy, and then make an appropriate action based on that. So I just want to emphasize that Buddhist idea has this a proactive aspect to it. Let me conclude my talk with another story. This is a story about a carpenter. This carpenter used to work in a company for many, many years, and he was a really good worker, very honest worker. He did a really good job even he was, serving this company. But eventually he grew old, so now it's a time for him to retire. So he informed his boss, that I need to retire from my work. And then the boss was really appreciative of his service, his dedication for the company. But then the boss told him, I just want you to do one more job before you get retired. So please just do this one job for us before. And then this carpenter's already kind of prepare his mind to get retired and be with his family. But now because he got this request from the boss, he decided, okay, maybe I will just do the last job. But he was not as enthusiastic as he was earlier. So anyway, he started the job. So he's building this house and he's supervising everything. Previously, he was very careful in the kind of materials he will select to build this house. He was very careful the people that he hired for other jobs. And he was really very careful, paying attention how he fixed things. But now, because this is his last job and he was not really even willing to do this. He's doing this because his boss asked him to do. So he was not really, paying much attention. He's not really paying much care as he used to, do it. So he did the kind of sloppy work, so to speak. So he didn't choose material well. He didn't really pay much attention, to really fix things and join things. But so anyway, he just want to finish this thing and then get retired. So he did a sloppy work, so to speak, and then finished the last project, and then submitted the project to the boss, and he was happy. And then this company arranged a farewell ceremony for him because he has worked for so many years. So they arranged a farewell ceremony, nice ceremony. So in that ceremony, many people talked the good qualities of this, the carpenter, this person, and like sweet memories they had together. And at the end of the ceremony, the boss wanted to give him a gift from the company. So in the ceremony, so the boss handed him over an important gift. That gift was actually a key. He was given a key as a gift. And they said that, this is our gift from the company, this key, and this key to a new house. He got the key and then realized that actually that is the key of the house that he built as his last project. He was given the house that he built as his last project. And as you know that, he did really do a good job in making that last house. If he knew that the last house was built for him, how much care he should have been paid to build that house, how much care he should have been paid to select the proper material to build this house, how much care he may have been put into really fixing things, putting things together. But he did the sloppy work without realizing that he'll be the owner of this house. I think in our life, the way we live our life is also quite similar to how this carpenter built this house. But we need to remember that we will become the owner of the results of our own actions. If we don't distinguish properly what is skillful and unskillful, if we do not only choose good materials, good wholesome things to our life, and all our actions, all our our way of our speech, way of our behavior, all of our decisions, all of our decisions are going to create the life for us. So just like that carpenter became the owner of the house that he house, or owner of the life that we create uh, for ourselves. So we really need mindfulness to like really build a happier life, a meaningful life, a wiser life that can help us and also help so many others. But that needs mindfulness. But remember, it's not simply paying attention to the present moment. It's really making a distinction what is wholesome and what is not wholesome. To make that distinction, you need your past learning and memories, and then you create your future. So I hope that we will have the broad understanding of mindfulness. Of course, the modern concept of mindfulness is useful. It has benefited a lot, but from the Buddhist perspective, we need to understand its limitation. And as Buddhists, we need to like practice the broader sense of mindfulness, because we have a purpose of training ourselves to eradicate our defilements and ultimately to eradicate our suffering and experience the enlightenment. So for that, we need to have a broader approach to mindfulness. And thank you for your attention. I think now it is time for us to have some Q&A session.
Yes, Bhante, thank you for the sharing. There are three questions that we have received. I'll go one by one. I'll put it onto the screen for you.
Okay. How do we help others realize their actions, anger, ego, hatred are causing harm to their own body and health? Okay. This is a difficult task. How you can help others to realize the actions and anger and ego, hatred, help themselves, harm themselves. I think the first part of this teaching others is to actually first incorporate these things to our own life. It's very difficult to teach others unless they are not willing to learn. If they're not willing to learn, it's really it's difficult, and maybe you will try it, but it's not going to be successful. And so what we can do actually first is to like try to incorporate these things to our own life. If you really incorporate these things to your own life, you will really see the challenge of it. How difficult not to be angry. And it just like think about yourself, how difficult it is to like maintain the peace in the mind. It's not easy. And although we know that anger is going to harm us, sometimes when the when unpleasant situations are happening, unwanted things are happening, it's very difficult not to have anger. But of course, what we can do is like let the anger arise. We cannot really stop there if you don't have prior training, but we simply let it arise, and we, instead of like promoting it, instead of like putting more filled more ingredients to it, we will simply observe it, and then we try to contemplate and analyze the consequences of it, and then we try to shift our attention, shift our mind to wholesome things. So when you do this practice by ourselves, we come to know what is the real difficulty here, and we come to know the real process, and then it is so easy for us to like guide someone. I think the best way is to like first incorporate these things to our life, and maybe be an example, and then whenever opportunities arise, and sometimes we need an opportunity to arise to like share or teach someone. It's so difficult to like forcefully teach anyone. Maybe there can be opportunities, like someone may be act with ego and anger and all these things, and create harm for himself without realizing it. So, but there could be moments that that person is really down, and really, going through such a difficult time. So if you can approach such that person in that kind of situation with kindness, not in the sense of like teaching him a lesson. No, he's going to learn his lesson today. I'm going to show him, how he's going to learn his lesson today. If you had that sense of, that attitude, you're not going to help him. He's not going to learn. But if that person is going through such a painful period as a result of his own actions, and if he can really approach with genuine kindness and then empathize with his suffering and let that person know that I feel your suffering, I feel your difficulties, and then gradually guide him to see, okay, what if you didn't do that, what if you didn't say that, what if you didn't make that decision. So approaching with compassion can help. But remember, this is going to be difficult. First thing is like, train ourselves. That's the primary job you have to do. Once you train yourself, you get the details, you get how difficult it is, how challenging it is. It's also help you to help others. And then my advice is to be an example first, and then wait for the moments, wait for the opportunities, and when the opportunities arise, approach with compassion, genuine compassion. We are not here to like, teach lessons for others. That's not our job. So approach with compassion. Hopefully, you will be successful. Not in all cases, but some or maybe many cases. Thank you. Okay, we have the next question. Of these three, greed, hatred, and illusion, which one the most hard to handle? Okay, the greed, hatred, and illusion. Actually, it's not really illusion, it's a delusion. Greed, hatred, and delusion. Greed, like lobha, hatred is dosa, and delusion is moha. And among these three things, what is most difficult to handle? Answer is very clear, very clear. Buddha has clearly said that the hardest one is the delusion, the moha, because that is the basis for both, greed and hatred. The moha is the hardest one to handle. Greed is slow, slow to arise and slow to go away, and hatred is quick to arise and quick to go away. But the moha, the delusion is actually misunderstanding, or there may be confusion in the mind, and that is the hardest one to get rid of, because you don't accept and admit that you are deluded. We don't admit that we have misunderstanding. We believe our misunderstanding is the correct understanding. So there's a big challenge there. So, but I think the more we have proper learning of the teachings of the Buddha, and the more we have a genuine investigation of our own experiences, and then we will gradually be able to remove the gravity, the thickness of the moha, the delusion, and so it is the delusion is the most difficult one to get rid of. But keep learning, keep listening to the teachings of the Buddha, and then keep investigating our own experiences, and then we will get to know that the whole greed and hatred arise due to our basic confusion in the mind, our confusion that things exist as we perceive them, or things exist permanently. We have this notion of permanency, and moha is that believing in permanency, believing that external things can satisfy us, and believing in a permanent self. Those are the main elements of delusion, moha. But there are so many others also. So the most difficult is the delusion. But the reason that you listen to this talk is to like gradually diminish that delusion. The more we listen, the more we contemplate on the teaching of the Buddha, the more we investigate our own experiences with honesty, we will be able to get rid of the moha. The most difficult one is the moha. Okay, the next one. Okay, this is a long question. When you say mindfulness involves taking mental actions, do you mean practicing sati sampajanya instead of sati alone? Because sati means remember and not to act, and also want mindfulness of tilakkhana list one mindfulness of Tilakana leads to wisdom and insight by secondary development of dispassion and this discernment and release. Yes, I think when I talk about, I didn't talk about mental actions actually. I was talking about mental states, but I was talking about making an effort. Yes, when I talks about making an effort, it's the right effort as Buddha mentioned, and so Sati Sampajanya has been translated as mindfulness and clear comprehension. So if you understand Sampajanya as a sense of comprehension, it has element of wisdom. So not only simply observing what is happening right now, but also comprehending the impermanence, comprehending the dissatisfactoriness, and comprehending the non-self nature. And by making that analysis, we can create a dispassion. I think the dispassion is a result of clearly investigating the present experiences. So observing the experiences and investigating in terms of the tilakkhana, in terms of three characteristics. As a result, we will have dispassionate, like equanimous state of the mind. So that's a result. So what I meant by action is the right effort. Right effort is like once you realize the mental states, whatever states you are going through, it's a physical, mental, or whatever sensations even. And then we need to distinguish whether this mental state is a wholesome one or unwholesome one, whether this is a nivarana or whether this is a bojjhanga. Whether this is like kama chanda, like sensual desire, or whether this is like piti, like rapture. And based on that distinction, and you need to make a right effort. If it is sensual desire, and then you try not to promote it, and you contemplate the consequences of it, and you abandon it, you drop it, and you purposely move your mind to a wholesome object. And if it is piti, and you will promote it, you will let it grow, you allow it to stay there, you cultivate it. So that is what I call right action, or what I mean by proactive effort, like what you call right effort.
Hey, Bhante, I think we've come to the end of today's Dhamma sharing. Those were the three questions we received.
Yes.
So I think we would like to now end the Dhamma sharing. I think it's almost an hour that we went through.
Yes.
Maybe we'll share the merits with the dearly departed and the Devas, and before we end.
Thank you, brother. So it has been great meeting together with every one of you. Today we spent time on understanding the Buddha's teachings of mindfulness, and then and try to find a way to like utilize that the broader sense of mindfulness for our own benefits and also for the benefits of many living beings. So by spending this time, dedicating this time to listen to the Dhamma talk, we generated so much merits in our mind, because the more we listen to the Dhamma, our mind is free from defilements. So the more we spend the free moments, the mind free from defilements, we generate so much of goodness, so much of kusala, so much of good merits in our heart. Let us now share these merits with everyone else. First of all, let us recall to our mind our departed relatives, our departed teachers, and people who loved us so much, people who benefited us so much, who are no more with us today. Let us be grateful towards all of them. May all of our departed relatives, our family members, our ancestors, our teachers, may they all share these merits. May they benefit from these merits. May they all have a smooth journey towards Nibbana. Let us chant together. Idang mi ñātinang hotu sukita hontu ñātayo. Idang mi ñātinang hotu sukita hontu ñātayo. Idang mi ñātinang hotu sukita hontu ñātayo. Let us also share this merits with all other beings. If there's any being in this world who would like to share this merit, may all those beings share this merits. May all divine beings, may all beings in all other realms, may they all share this merits. May they benefit from this merits. May they all be well, happy, and peaceful. එත්තාවතාච අම්මිහි සම්භතං පුඤ්ඤ සංපදං සබ්බේ දේවා අනුමෝදන්තු සම්බ සංපත්ති සිද්ධියා සබ්බේ භූතා අනුමෝදන්තු සම්බ සංපත්ති සිද්ධියා සබ්බේ සත්තා අනුමෝදන්තු සම්බ සංපත්ති සිද්ධියා. Thank you, everyone.